Imagine this. You've worked hard for years, you've saved some money, maybe even invested in a few things people told you were smart moves. But somehow your wealth never really grows. You're not broke, but you're not free either. You keep moving, but the finish line always seems to move further away. Ever felt that way? That's because most people don't realize this simple truth. It's not just about what you buy, it's about what you own that silently drains you. See, there are assets that look valuable on the surface, but quietly eat away your time, energy, and money underneath. The kind of things that keep people trapped in the illusion of progress while they slowly bleed financially. So today, let's talk about the 10 worst assets that keep you poor. Not the obvious ones, but the hidden traps most people don't even realize they've fallen into. Let's start with a story. There was a man I once knew who bought a luxury car the moment he got his first big promotion. It wasn't just any car, it was shiny, loud, and the kind of thing that turned heads at traffic lights. He told himself it was a reward for all his hard work. But a few years later, when his company downsized and bonuses stopped, that car didn't just lose value, it became a burden. The payments, the insurance, the maintenance, it drained him. Every month he worked not for freedom, but for that car. Here's the truth most people avoid. Many assets that make us look rich are the same ones that prevent us from becoming rich. Let's dive into the first one, luxury cars. They depreciate the moment you drive them off the lot. But more than that, they symbolize something dangerous, the need to signal success before achieving it. When you buy to impress, you lock yourself into a loop of needing to maintain appearances. It's not the price tag that's expensive. It's the mindset it creates. The kind that makes you chase validation instead of value. And speaking of validation, let's talk about something even more deceptive, overpriced homes. People often say a house is an asset, but let me ask you, if that house keeps taking money from you every month, is it really an asset or a liability disguised as one? Owning a home isn't always bad, but when you stretch yourself financially just to live in a better neighborhood or to have more space than you actually need, you're not investing, you're speculating on your own ego. You're betting that the illusion of comfort today will somehow justify the years of financial stress that follow. Most people don't buy homes, they buy mortgages. Decades of monthly payments that trap them into working longer and harder just to maintain a lifestyle that doesn't bring real happiness. Then there's the third one, unused subscriptions and memberships. It sounds small, right? $10 here, $20 there. But these are silent parasites. They feed off your inattention, gyms you never visit, streaming platforms you barely use, apps that renew automatically while you promise yourself you'll cancel next month. It's not just about money. It's about how these small leaks create a mindset of waste. They teach your brain that it's okay to lose a little bit as long as it doesn't hurt. But those little losses add up to big habits, and those habits define your financial destiny. The fourth asset is something that's emotionally expensive, status symbols. Designer watches, branded clothes, limited edition gadgets, things that tell the world, look, I've made it. But what they actually say is, look, I'm still trying to prove something. Here's a hard truth. The moment you start buying things to show success, you stop building success. Because success isn't loud, it's quiet. Real wealth whispers. Now, let's talk about something most people call an investment, but often isn't. Rental property without proper knowledge. Many people think buying a rental property automatically makes them investors. But property is not a passive game. It demands understanding of markets, taxes, repairs, and tenants. The uneducated investor ends up working harder than before, dealing with leaks, vacancies, and maintenance calls at midnight. They thought they were buying income, but they bought a job. The real asset is not the property. It's the skill of managing one. Without that, even a good investment can turn into a bad one. Now, let's move to the sixth one, cars again, but in a different form, toys and collectibles bought emotionally. The expensive bike, the boat, the drone, the new gadget that seemed essential. We buy them because they spark joy. But after the excitement fades, they sit idle, losing value, gathering dust. Every purchase driven by emotion is a small loan from your future self. And here's something that might surprise you. The seventh asset is holding too much cash. Yes, cash. The thing everyone thinks is safe. It's true. Cash protects you from volatility. But over time, inflation silently eats it. Every year it buys you less, and while you feel secure holding it, what you're actually doing is watching your purchasing power erode. It's like standing still in a race where everyone else is moving forward. The world rewards those who put money to work, not those who keep it locked away out of fear. But there's a deeper reason people hold on to cash control. We love feeling like we can when the time is right, yet most people never do. Because fear doesn't vanish with more options, it grows. The more you try to avoid losing, the more opportunities you miss. Now, number 8, the dream business. You've probably seen people jump into a new venture because they're tired of working for someone else. It sounds noble, even inspiring. But here's the problem. Most of them don't buy a business, they buy a fantasy. They put their savings into an idea without testing it, without understanding markets, without a real plan. And then they spend years trying to fix what was broken from the start. The harsh truth is, passion without discipline burns faster than it grows. A business isn't an escape from a job. It's a commitment to an even bigger one. Number 9 might sting a little. Expensive education with no clear purpose. We live in a world where degrees are sold as golden tickets. But knowledge is only power if it's applied. If you spend years studying something you never use, that's not education. It's consumption. You bought the feeling of progress, not the reality of it. The worst part, student loans turn into chains that tie people to jobs they hate just to pay for a decision they made when they were too young to understand compound interest. Real education pays you back. False education takes your time, your freedom, and your future returns. And finally, number 10, the most dangerous asset of all, your comfort zone. It doesn't appear on your balance sheet, but it's the costliest thing you'll ever own. It's that invisible wall that tells you, don't take risks. Don't learn new things. Don't change what's working. It feels safe, but safety has a price. Every time you avoid discomfort, you trade long-term growth for short-term ease. The truth is, your comfort zone is the most seductive asset in the world. It gives you peace today by stealing your potential tomorrow. Let that sink in for a second. Because here's the real paradox of wealth. It's not built by what you add to your life. It's built by what you subtract. The right assets multiply your time, your energy, your freedom. The wrong ones quietly consume them, leaving you stuck in a cycle of working harder just to stay in place. Let me share something personal. I once met a man in his 70s who looked back on his life with one regret. He said, I spent too much time buying things that made me feel rich, and not enough time building things that made me free. That line never left me, because deep down, that's the battle we're all fighting. The battle between appearing rich and being rich. Being rich isn't about owning more, it's about needing less. When you stop measuring success by what you have and start measuring it by what you can walk away from, that's when wealth begins. Most people think financial freedom comes from making more money, but freedom actually comes from removing the things that control you. The useless debt, the toxic purchases, the false symbols of success, the constant urge to impress. Once you strip those away, you'll notice something strange. You don't need as much as you thought you did. The noise quiets down, your decisions become clearer, you start to think in terms of value, not vanity. And from that mindset, real wealth begins to grow. Not overnight, not in flashy ways, but steadily, like a tree taking root beneath the surface. So maybe it's time to ask yourself, what are the assets in your life that are actually keeping you poor? Not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. What are the things that look like progress, but quietly pull you backward? Because if you can identify them and have the courage to let them go, you've already done what 90% of people never will. You've chosen freedom over illusion. And that choice, repeated over time, is what separates the wealthy from the trapped. The people who look rich and the ones who actually are. So the next time you're about to buy something, pause for a moment and ask yourself, is this helping me build wealth or maintain an illusion? Because once you start asking that question honestly, you'll notice how quickly your decisions begin to change. You'll stop chasing shiny distractions. You'll stop buying validation. You'll stop collecting liabilities that call themselves assets, and you'll start investing in things that grow, in skills that compound in yourself. That's where the real transformation happens. Not when you finally afford the nice things, but when you no longer need them to feel secure. Because the ultimate wealth isn't freedom from work, it's freedom from worry. If this made you think, if it sparked something inside you, then take a second to share it with someone who might need this reminder too. And if you want to keep learning how to think like a real investor, not just with your money, but with your mindset, then subscribe, because we're just getting started. The path to real wealth isn't about adding more. It's about removing what holds you back. And once you do that, you won't just get rich, you'll get free. And here's where most people get it wrong. They think the key to wealth is simply earning more. More income, bigger paychecks, larger bonuses. But let me tell you something that sounds almost counterintuitive. A high income doesn't protect you from poverty. In fact, for many people, it quietly leads them toward it. Because without asset discipline, high income is just high-speed spending. It's a bigger fuel tank on a leaking car. You'll go further, sure, but not where you think you're headed. I've met people who earn in a month what others make in a year and still live paycheck to paycheck. Not because they're foolish, but because they confuse money flowing in with money sticking around. They think income equals wealth, but that's an illusion. Income is temporary. Wealth is structural. One disappears the moment you stop working. The other keeps feeding you even when you rest. That's the difference between the person who works for money and the one whose money works for them. But here's the trap. When you start making more, your mind plays tricks on you. It whispers, you can afford it now. That one line destroys more financial futures than any market crash ever could. Because the moment you believe, I can afford it, you stop asking, do I need it? You stop questioning, you start indulging, you start rationalizing. And soon, your expenses grow in perfect sync with your income. The numbers get bigger, but your margin of freedom stays exactly the same, or worse, disappears. You see, lifestyle inflation is not just about buying more expensive things. It's about changing what you consider normal. The person who once felt content in a simple apartment suddenly feels cramped without a house. The person who used to drive a modest car now needs something luxurious. Every new level of comfort becomes a new baseline. And the tragedy is, once comfort becomes normal, it stops bringing joy, but it keeps demanding money. That's why so many high earners secretly feel trapped. They have the income others dream about, yet they can't breathe. They can't stop working, can't slow down, can't say no, because their lifestyle doesn't allow them to. They're not living, they're maintaining. Maintaining the image, the house, the car, the memberships, the perception of success. And all of it comes with invisible strings attached. It's funny. People think poverty is about not having enough. But true poverty is needing more than you can sustain. It's when your obligations grow faster than your freedom. That's what happens when income grows, but discipline doesn't. Discipline is the quiet engine of wealth. It's not glamorous. You won't find it on Instagram, and it doesn't sparkle like a new car. But it's what separates those who keep their fortune from those who lose it. It's the ability to say, not yet, when everyone around you is saying, why not? It's the patience to let your assets grow before your lifestyle does. I once knew a man who started earning millions in his 30s. He had everything, a penthouse apartment, luxury cars, expensive vacations, and a social circle that fed on admiration. But 20 years later, after a few bad investments and one market downturn, he had to sell almost everything. The income had dried up, but the expenses didn't stop. He had built a life that required constant inflow, and when that inflow paused, the whole structure collapsed. He told me, I thought I was rich, but I was just well paid. That's the brutal distinction most people never make. Being well paid and being wealthy are not the same thing. Being well paid is temporary success. Being wealthy is permanent stability. You can't buy stability. It's built through choices, consistency, and discipline. Think about it like this. Imagine you're filling a bucket with water. Your income is the tap and your spending are the holes in the bucket. Most people, when they start earning more, turn the tap up, but never fix the holes. So no matter how much they pour in, the water never rises. Wealth isn't about increasing the flow. It's about sealing the leaks. That's asset discipline. Asset discipline means every dollar that enters your life has a purpose. Some are meant to work, some are meant to protect, and some are meant to multiply. But none are meant to disappear without reason. Without that discipline, income becomes noise. It looks powerful, but it has no direction. Here's what often happens. A person starts earning well. They tell themselves they'll save more once they reach a certain level. But as income rises, so do their desires. The better the pay, the higher the temptation. New car, bigger house, nicer restaurants, better vacations. They don't realize that their new normal is just their old self with a more expensive taste. And here's the dark side. Society celebrates this behavior. When someone upgrades their lifestyle, people applaud. You deserve it, they say. But when someone chooses restraint, no one notices. Yet restraint is what builds wealth. Because every time you say no to instant gratification, you're saying yes to future freedom. There's a reason so many lottery winners and high-income athletes go broke. It's not bad luck. It's lack of discipline. They confuse cash flow with permanence. They think money is a river that never stops flowing. But all rivers dry up without a source. If your spending outpaces your structure, your collapse is only a matter of time. Discipline doesn't mean deprivation. It means awareness. It means knowing that not all growth is progress and not all luxury is success. It means being intentional about what you allow into your financial ecosystem. Because when you lack intention, the world decides for you and the world wants your money. Most high-income lifestyles are designed around consumption, not creation. They revolve around spending, not saving. You'll notice this when you walk through wealthy neighborhoods. So many people living in big houses they barely own, driving cars they barely afford, and working jobs they secretly hate just to keep the illusion alive. They are not rich. They are hostages to their own success. Asset discipline flips that dynamic. It's when you start using your income to buy time instead of things. You invest in assets that produce cash flow, not just comfort. You learn to live below your means, not because you have to, but because you choose to. You start realizing that wealth isn't about accumulation. It's about endurance. Endurance means surviving the downturns, staying afloat when opportunities dry up, having reserves when others panic. That's what discipline gives you, the ability to outlast uncertainty. Because no matter how high your income is, if it all depends on your next paycheck, you're still one decision away from collapse. You see, people often assume discipline limits their freedom, but it's the opposite. Discipline creates freedom. When your money is structured, your emotions don't control your spending. When your assets are prioritized, your lifestyle doesn't dictate your choices. When your focus is long-term, your temporary desires lose their power. Without discipline, your wealth becomes fragile. It looks impressive, but it's paper thin. The moment something unexpected happens, a medical emergency, a job loss, a market shift, it shatters. That's why people with lower incomes but high discipline often end up wealthier than those with higher incomes but none. Because it's not the amount you make, it's the amount you keep and grow. There's another subtle danger in high-income lifestyles. It changes your identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who deserves more. You feel entitled to convenience, to luxury, to constant upgrades. But entitlement kills gratitude. And without gratitude, you lose perspective. Once you normalize excess, you can no longer appreciate simplicity. And when that happens, even wealth can't make you feel rich. The key is balance. Earn big, but leave small. Expand your income, but tighten your focus. Don't let your spending habits grow with your paycheck. Let your assets grow instead. Every dollar you don't waste today becomes a soldier working for you tomorrow. Imagine you earn $20,000 a month. Most people would increase their lifestyle to match that, but someone with discipline might live on $10 and invest $7 and save $3. That doesn't sound exciting in the short term, but over time, that decision compounds into real power. Because money invested with patience grows exponentially, while money spent emotionally disappears instantly. The hardest part of discipline is emotional resistance. It's fighting the feeling that you're missing out. It's ignoring what everyone else is doing. It's choosing delayed gratification in a world built on now. But here's what most people never realize. The people who look like they're winning today are often the ones who'll be struggling tomorrow. Because the game of wealth isn't played in the spotlight. It's played in the shadows of patience. Asset discipline is the skill of letting your future self make the final decision. It's saying, If this purchase doesn't make sense a week from now, I won't do it. It's asking, will this bring me value or just validation? It's thinking in decades, not days. Think of every dollar as a worker. You can either spend it on entertainment today or hire it to work for you forever. Those who understand this principle never go broke, no matter how much they earn, because their wealth isn't dependent on their income. It's powered by their discipline. A high-income lifestyle without discipline is like a mansion built on sand. It looks beautiful until the first wave hits. But a modest lifestyle with structure, that's a fortress. It may not look glamorous, but it stands the test of time. You don't need to earn more to be wealthy. You need to earn smarter. You need to channel your income into assets that feed you instead of feeding on you. Every time you choose an appreciating asset over an ego purchase, you're buying a piece of freedom. Every time you reinvest instead of upgrade, you're compounding your independence. The real goal isn't to live rich, it's to live free. And freedom doesn't come from how much you earn. It comes from how much you can live without depending on income. That's what discipline builds. Stability, resilience, peace of mind. Most people chase the appearance of wealth until they realize that appearances cost more than they return. But those who master asset discipline, they quietly build, patiently invest, and eventually reach a point where income becomes optional. That's the ultimate goal, not to impress the world, but to detach from it. Because when your wealth depends on discipline, not luck or income, it becomes something no one can take away from you. It's not fragile. It's not fleeting. It's real.